webinar presented by the ScienceBeam company. Can you please let me know in the chat box if you can hear me correctly? Okay, thank you, thank you. This is Mary from the ScienceBeam company. Today, I will be presenting the QEEG webinar for you. It's nice to meet you all here. So if anyone would be interested in introducing yourself, please go on. We would love to meet you here. Okay, so I think we can start by watching a video about the ScienceBeam company, and then we are waiting for other participants to join us. Then we will start the webinar.
ScienceBeam is the provider of innovative solutions for neuroscience applications, including EEG, ERP, QEEG, neurofeedback, and animal electrophysiology systems. ScienceBeam's team includes more than 50 neuroscientists, physiologists, and psychologists beside our professional computer and electronic engineers. Over 20 years of experience, we have been able to design and produce lots of high-tech electrophysiology and neuroscience products. ScienceBeam is an international company that is founded in China and expanded rapidly across the Middle East. We design and produce a full range of biosignal recording systems, including the brain, muscle, and heart, from 1 to 128 recording channels in human and animal models. eWave, our powerful EEG and ERP accusation system, is used for both clinical and research purposes. eWave is a portable and lightweight device that has a 24-bit resolution and 1,000 samples per second sampling rate for each channel. Using eWave, you can simultaneously record a wide variety of physiological signals, including EEG, ECG, EMG, and GSR. For research purposes, ScienceBeam has offered eWave Plus, that is a precise EEG/ERP accusation system with 32, 64, or 128 recording channels. This high-tech amplifier can be used for simultaneous recording of EEG with TMS, TDCS, and FNIRS. QEEG is a statistical analysis procedure that processes the recorded EEG and converts it into brain maps. eWave records EEG activity from 24 recording channels for the QEEG test. For research purposes, ScienceBeam has offered eWave Plus, that is a precise EEG and ERP accusation system with 32 or 64 or 128 recording channels. This high-tech amplifier can be used for simultaneous recording of EEG with TMS, TDCS, and FNIRS. It's also capable of recording high-frequency oscillations and slow cortical potentials. eLab is a fantastic data accusation system for recording single-unit action potentials, local field potentials, long-term potentiation, EEG and ECG signals. eLab has 50K sample per second sampling rate per channel and is the only electrophysiology device that covers all extracellular techniques. For more information about ScienceBeam products, please visit our website.
Today, we're gonna talk about QEEG brain mapping and what information it gives you. Brain maps are so important because they are literally like a map. So let's first go over the Wikipedia definition. According to the Wikipedia definition, quantitative electroencephalography, which is the QEEG, is the field concerned with the numerical analysis of electroencephalography data and associated behavioral correlates. So when we are talking about brain maps, we talk about them and we address them as a very important tool because they are literally like a map. The question here is what a map gives you. If we think about it like this way, this is a simple question. If you're on a map, on a journey, what a map can give you, what a map can provide for you. This is a simple question because we all know that basically a map shows you where you are. So when we get your QEEG brain map, we are looking at how your brain is performing. So brain maps are so important because it can show if your brain is using too much slow processing the speed or too much fast processing the speed. And we can use these maps and this like journey map to see that how your brain is functioning. So the QEEG brain map is let's say like an X-ray of your brain functioning. So we look at the maps to understand better that what's your brain is, how your brain is functioning, and in what situation your map is. So and how we can make it to perform better to get to the optimal situation of yourself. So this is the whole concept, and we're talking about the quantitative electroencephalography. Let's look at it as like a map, as what we need to do, and we need to understand how is your brain functioning. In this slide, you can see an example of a brain mapping. This is the report that you get when you go under the brain mapping. So this is the result. This is the result and the report of your brain functioning. This is what your doctor actually needs in order to evaluate your brain functioning. So as mentioned before, brain maps are like a journey. So this journey map will also show your doctor what he needs to do to get you from the situation that you are at the moment to where you need to be. as I mentioned before, these brain maps are required as like a journey map to help the doctor or the technician to help you to get from where you are to better yourself, to like a better version of yourself, to the optimal version of yourself. So this is what we are going to talk about in this webinar. We are going to talk about what information can a doctor get from these brain maps, and how he can help you to get to a better situation. So just let's have a brief look over the functionalities of the left and right hemispheres of the brain. As you know, when we are talking about the brain, we are talking about the right and left hemispheres of the brain, and different parts of the brain, different hemispheres of the brain are responsible for different functionalities. So when we are talking about the left side of the brain, it's responsible for analytical thought, detail-oriented perception, rational thought, caution, planning, logic, math, science, things like this. And when we are talking about the right hemisphere of your brain, this part is responsible for like perception, like impulse, creative writing, art, imagination, motor skills, vision. These are the responsibilities of the right and left hemispheres of the brain. So different parts of the brain are responsible for different functionalities of a person, of the brain. So now the first question, when we want to go into the depth of the QEEG and brain mapping technique, the first and the most simple question is that where does the EEG signals come from? So EEG, the EEG signals refers to the recording of the brain's spontaneous electrical activity over a period of time, as recorded from multiple electrodes placed on the scalp. So brain waves are basically evidence of electrical activity in your brain. When a group of neurons, as we know, the brain and the nervous system is consists of neurons, and the neurons are when your brain is under a task, these neurons will fire together and burst of an electrical impulse. So the neurons will send information to other neurons. So this is the whole process of creating a wave-like pattern. When we see these EEGs, which are wave-like patterns, are the concept of firing neurons together and sending information from one neuron to another neuron. This is the thing that is happening in the brain. So these waves that we see as in a concept, as in a consequence of, as in a result of firing the neurons, are measured in cycles of speed per second, which is the frequency that we call it in hertz. So when we look at these wave-like patterns, we see like some ways that we interpret them and we address them using frequency and amplitude. These are the main parameters that we use when we want to address these brain waves. So these brain waves that we talked about is a very tiny signal which is measured in microvolts. So this electrical signal, which is very tiny, should be magnified by some kind of amplifier, and then this information is actually it should be fed through a computer. So we will be using an amplifier to magnify this information, this electrical activity, to send it to a computer so that we can see what is going on, what is the brain waves are looking like. So for example, here in this slide, we can see a E-wave amplifier designed and manufactured by the ScienceBeam team. And this amplifier, which is very portable and small, lightweight and portable amplifier, can be used to magnify the electrical signal so that we can see what is going on into the brain on the computer, on the screen of the computer. So the patterns of brainwave activity varies depending on which part of the brain we are looking at, as well as what we are doing. So in different mental states, different types of brainwaves dominate. So it's different when we are in a meditation or relaxing mode, or if we are doing some kind of problem solving, or we are in the situation of thinking, or even if we are under some pressure. So this is really different. The mental state of us directly has impact on what brainwave we will see. So this picture is a good demonstration of the brainwaves that are included in the activity of your brain. So as we mentioned in previous slides, according to the mental state and that at which part of the brain we are looking and focusing, different types of brainwaves dominate. So when we use an amplifier to record the activity of your brain in different areas of the brain, for example, if we are focusing on the frontal part of the brain, we may see different brainwaves dominating compared to when we are focusing on the occipital part of the brain, or compared to when we are focusing on central part of the brain. So these are two most factors that we should consider when we are looking at the brain activity. First was which mental state we are looking at, and second is which part of the brain we are looking at. So totally, we can just summarize the whole concept into that the brain activity includes all these brainwaves, but it depends on what mental state and what part of the brain we are looking at. So this is just, we will go over the details of these brainwaves in next slide, but I was just going to show you the all the brainwaves that are important to us to just see to have a look at different brainwaves all together. So the first bandwidth that we are talking about is the delta bandwidth. What is delta bandwidth? It's 0.5 to 3 Hz cycles. It's related to deep sleep state. It's the slowest brainwave with the highest amplitude. It's the dominant brainwave in infants up to 6 months old. 40% of the amplitude in infants is the delta band, and also less than 5% of the amplitude in a normal adult is the delta band. So here you can see the wave pattern of the delta band. So this was the normal delta band, and the next comes what if the delta band was out of the normal range? What if it was out of the normal range? What if it was high? What if we see high amplitudes of delta in the brain activity? If we see high amplitudes of delta activity, it may be related to learning disabilities and ADHD. It may be related to sleepy brains or even brain injuries. So when we are talking about the brain waves, we are talking about the normal range of the brain waves. So it's important for us that we have actually when we are talking about optimal brain, we are talking about normal range of all the brain waves together. But if we have like out of normal range, this is something that needs to be considered. The next wave band is the theta band. It's 4 to 7 Hertz. It's related to trance state, creativity, internal focus, and and also pulse in theta are visual or emotional. Higher amplitudes of theta waves can be seen in children compared to the adults. And also you can see the picture of this band wave. So what if a theta wave was out of the normal range? What are the theta-related disorders? We talk about high amplitudes of theta or low amplitudes of theta. High amplitudes of theta can be related to ADHD, depression, impulsive disorder, lack of attention, processing problems, and also foggy brain. But what if we have low amplitudes of theta? It may be related to anxiety and stress. The next bandwidth is the alpha band, which is 8 to 12 hertz. It's related to alertness, peacefulness, readiness, and meditation. Alpha band can be seen mainly in occipital lobe in consciousness with eyes closed. And also approximately 10% of the population do not have alpha wave. This is something to be considered, that if people do not have alpha waves, it can cause anxiety and memory disorders. So this is an important band, and we should have it to be normal and to be in an optimal situation. So when the alpha band was out of the normal range, it can be, if we can see high anterior alpha band, it may be related to daydreamers, ADD, ADHD, depression, traumatic brain injuries, and marijuana use. So what if we see high posterior alpha? It may be related to anxiety and insomnia. So the next one is the sensory motor rhythm, which is called SMR. It refers to oscillations in the electric or magnetic fields recorded over the sensory motor cortex. It's 12 to 15 hertz, and it can be seen in relaxed yet focused situation, also in a stillness and calm mental state, and also in sleep spindles. And also you can see here the wave pattern of this rhythm. The next band rhythm is the beta band, which is 15 to 22 hertz. It's related to thinking, focusing, and sustained attention. Also, it can be seen in problem solving and externally oriented situations. What if we have high amplitudes of beta? If we see left hypoactivation, it may be related to depression. And if we see right hyperactivation of beta, it may be related to anxiety. Also, totally high amplitudes of beta can be seen in anxiety disorders, obsessive compulsive disorders, sleep disorders, and as well as bruxism. The next one is the high beta rhythm, which can be seen in which is at 23 to 35 hertz. It's related to hypervigilance, very fast cognitive processing, alert wakefulness, and intense mental activity. If we see high amplitudes of high beta band, it actually may be related to epileptic situations, hypervigilance, overthinking, rumination, and obsessive compulsive. So until now, we have we just got familiar with different kinds of brain rhythms. That and as I mentioned before, all these brain rhythms should be included in the person's brain activity. So now the question here is that how does the QEEG brain mapping? How does the QEEG brain mapping is done? So how can we get the QEEG brain mapping? So when you go to the answer actually is that when you go to your neurofeedback practitioner or EEG technician or your doctor, to see what is going on with your brain functioning. They put an EEG cap on your head, which does nothing to you, so no harm to you. This cap will just actually this cap contains electrodes, as you can see here. Actually, this setup is also designed and manufactured by the ScienceBeam company. You can see the ELECTROPHYSIOLOGY system here, which can be used for recording EEG from 19 channels. Actually, the device has a 24 channels. You can use it for QEEG brain mapping. As you can see, this is a 19 channel cap placed on the head of the, can be placed on the head of the children or adults. It comes in different sizes and it has 19 channels, and you can record EEG using this device and this cap. So these electrodes placed on the scalp can gather the data from the can actually gather the data and the information of the brain activities. So we can here now we can watch a practical guide about how to record EEGs for QEEG and brain mapping. So let me just show a video. Okay. Can you see the can you see my screen with the video? Please let me know so that I can start playing. Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to play this video, and also please let me know if you can hear the sound of the video. Okay, so I think we don't have sound. So okay, I'm going to explain about this video. So this is the practical guide for recording EEG. You can use this system, which is, as I told you, it has 24 channels and it can be used for QEEG brain mapping. This device has 24 channels, so you can record other biosignals like EMG, ECG, and EOG signals with this device too. Also, you can use 19 channels of this device to record EEGs from the brain. So when we want to start the recording, we need a cap. This is a cap for QEEG. It has 19 channels and is also designed by the ScienceBeam company. This is a flexible cap, and it's made of silicone. And it's a washable cap, and it's designed according to the 1020 international electrode locations. When you want to start your recording, you have to measure your clients to find the CZ point, which is the central point of the of the EEG recording. You will measure from the Indian to Malaysian points and divide it by 2. This is the CZ point of the head of your subject. So when you get to this point, just mark it to remember where is this location. Then you put the CZ point of the cap on the place that you've marked, and you fix the cap on the subject's head. You can also use the straps to make it fix on the subject's head. For your recording, it's required to use references. In this system, we use ear clips. We apply 1020 paste or any kind of EG paste, and we apply it on the ear clips, and we connect the ear clips to the ear lobes of the subject. These are the references of your recording. Then we turn on the device and connect the device to the cables of the cap. There are 3 cables that will be connected to the device. Each cable should be connected to a port. There are numbers on the cables, so you can connect them easily. Then we can just put it on the, actually make it fix on the subject so that we won't have any movement or any artifacts of movement. Then we will start injecting gel into the electrodes to start the recording. We can use EEG gel or ultrasonic gel. Ultrasonic gels are cheaper, so this is one of the main advantages of the device, that you can use the ultrasonic gel instead of EEG gels because the device is very low noise. Then you can see here that we start injecting gel into the electrodes, and this is the software environment when you're seeing what you're recording. When you when you actually start injecting gel, you just ask your subject, your client, if he sends the gel, and this will be enough amount of gel. You should not inject lots, actually big amount of gel or very small amount of gel. It should be something medium and average, and you should ask the client if he felt it. So this is the ELECTROP environment. This is the software coming with the device. There are, you will, when you want to record, you will add the technician information as well as the client information here. For EEG, for actually QEEG, we need to add the age and also the gender of the subject because it's important, and we will talk about this in next slides. So we'll start recording, as you can see, by just adding the information of the technician and the subject. So you can now see that we have a clear and noise-free signal here. In order, actually, considering that we are talking about the practical guide of EEG recording, these are the tips that you should consider. Ask your client to press his teeth, and also ask him to blink his eyes, and also roll his eyes. So you can see the artifacts when he press and push his teeth here. And when he blinks, you can also see, blinking. You can see the artifact of the blinking here too. So this is the whole system. and you can see that this was a like a practical guide to see how to how to record. So I'm gonna stop it here, and we will get back to the slides now. Okay, so let's go back to those slides. Can you see my presentation now? Please let me know so I can continue. Okay, thank you. So this was the practical guide for EEG recording. Now that we have learned about the recording, after recording EEGs, as mentioned and as stated in the practical guide, and as you watched in the video, you will have raw EEG signals like the one that you're seeing in the left picture. Okay, we continue that after the recording, you will have raw EEG signals like the one you're seeing in this left picture. Then, when we are talking about the QEEG and brain maps, our goal is to go from the raw EEGs to the QEEG brain maps on the right picture. So this is what we're going to talk about. Now the problem is moving from EEG to brain maps. When we are talking about moving from EEG to brain maps, as discussed before, QEEG refers to the comprehensive analysis of brainwave frequency bandwidth. So QEEG is recorded the same way as EEG, as we watched in the practical guide, but the data acquired in the recording are used to create topographic colored coded maps. Sorry, could you please turn off your microphones? I think we have disturbances here. So when we are talking about QEEG brain maps, we are talking about the color-coded maps that show electrical activity of the cerebral cortex. So the answer to this question of how to move from EEG to brain maps is using the z-scores. The QEEG results are split as z-scores, which are indication of how far and in what direction the item deviates from its distribution's mean. So the z-score is represents the standard deviations from the mean and span from -3 to positive 3. I think you have microphones on. Could you please turn off your microphone?
D'accord. On va إذا كان باش نجي شكون باش نتصل.
Okay, it's over. So I was saying that the z-scores span from -3 to +3. For example, z-score of +2 means that the result is 2 standard deviations higher than the norm. Oh, sorry. Higher than the norm. So when we are talking about the z-scores, we say that these are a special application of the transformation rules. So the z-score for an item indicates how far and in what direction the item deviates from its distribution mean. So if you have a population and you use this formula if you want to use this z-score formula, you can transform it to a bell curve. You can see the bell curve here on the left picture. This is the bell curve that can be a population that you use the formula on it. So at the middle of this curve, you can see it's the 0. So this is the mean of the distribution. Z-score actually differs from -3 to +3. So the mean will be in the middle of this bell curve, and it will be the number 0. So the importance of the z-scores are that most of us are not at the mean at the 0. So when we are looking at the z-score of our brain activity, usually like 68% of the population will have z-scores from -1 to +1, and like 97 to 98% of the population will be included from -2 to +2. So when we're talking about z-scores above 2 standard deviation, we are talking about pretty unusual brain activity, which we consider clinically significant. Using these z-scores will actually get us to have these color-coded brain maps. So each color means something. When you use the brain maps, there's a guideline of there's a guidance of how to interpret the colors. So when we're talking about, as I was telling, about these scores above 2 standard deviation or under 2 standard deviation, we are talking about pretty unusual activity, which we consider it clinically significant. This is how z-score works, and we usually train z-scores above or below 2 standard deviation to get them closer to the mean. So the whole goal, the whole purpose of looking at the brain waves and using them is to get to the 0 point, to get back to the mean of the population. This is the whole concept, and the importance of the z-score is moving from EEG to brain maps. So after using z-score, what do we get? This is there are actually some databases that take the raw EEG data information and process them into brain maps, which look like this. As I showed you in first slide, this is the QEEG brain map that you will get, and this is the report of your brain activity. So this brain map is an example from the NeuroGuide software. These companies, like the NeuroGuide, has a great database, and they can compare the results and the brain activity of a person with the normal distribution of that sex and of that age. So in these maps, you can see color-coded brain maps. In these maps, 0 is shown in green color, and the warm color are activities above the mean, and the cool colors are activities below the mean. This is what we get from these brain maps. Now the question is, how does QEEG brain mapping work? Now we're gonna talk about how does QEEG brain mapping work. As we discussed here in previous slides, the way that it works is once your brain map has been taken, it gets uploaded to a very large database of brains of all ages, and your brain map is compared to people of the same age and the same sex. So as I mentioned before, age and sex are important parameters for brain maps. So there are like we're talking about the NeuroGuide software, which has a great database, and your brain, when you record EEG, your brain activity will be uploaded to a great database and will be compared to people of your same age and same sex. So that's how the doctors looking at the brain maps and will know if your brain is doing what it should do for your age. The reason is that when you're talking about the same age, is that the brains are changing over lifetime. So the comparison must be done with age-matched people. And this is the normal database that the comparison will be made according to that. So the EEG will be recorded, the brain map report will be taken, and then it will be uploaded to a very large database like NeuroGuide to do the comparison. What a normal QEEG brain map looks like. So actually, we are not talking about normal brain map because there is no normal. We are talking about optimum. We are talking about the optimum brain map, like optimum, the most optimum situation of the brain functioning. So if your brain map comes back perfectly, so it's doing exactly what we want it to do for your age, your brain maps will be all green, like the one that you can see here. So when looking at the QEEG report, you can see all these heads. These heads represent different brain speeds, like actually processing the speed. We, as you can see in the report, we have delta band power here. Then we have theta, we have alpha, we have beta, and high beta. These are the brain rhythms that we discussed before. So when we are looking at the brain maps, we will see these brain waves here. So if you remember from my previous discussions, if you remember, delta and theta are slow speeds, alpha is the medium speed, and beta and high beta are fast and extra fast speeds relatively. So when we are looking at these brain maps, it shows us how your brain is using each one of these speeds. Actually, as I mentioned before, brain activity is actually includes all the brain rhythms, and what we want the brain is to let's actually go for this slide. When we are talking about a normal or regulated brain, we want the brain to have a good balance of brain waves. Also, we want the brain to have the ability to shift easily from one brain state to another. So this is the most important thing, that it's really important that your brain has the ability to shift easily from one brain state to another. So the brain activity is actually includes all brain waves, but we want it to use all brain waves and all different processing speeds properly. So some areas might be using much of a speed. For example, let's have an example. For example, in ADHD people, they use too much of theta rhythm. Or for anxiety, they use too much of high beta band. So if someone or if someone has memory loss or cognitive decline, there is not enough data perfectly processing for thinking. So if you're going over, if you go over various QEEG brain maps, you'll see heads with different colors. The colors, as we discussed in the Z-score slide, represent which speed is being used too much or too little. This is how we're gonna interpret their brain maps. So what we expect the brain, an optimum or normal brain is to have the ability to shift easily from one brain state to another. We will discuss about this later too. And when we're talking about the dysregulated brain, what we're talking about, we're actually expecting the brain to be calm, but it tends to be overstimulated. Or we're expecting the brain to be alert, and it tends to be understimulated. These are the dysregulations of the brain. So let's have a look at the different parameters of the let me just go back to the brain map. Okay, so as I was telling, this is the brain map that we will get after after an EEG recording. So our brain uses each of these frequency and brain waves in different amounts throughout the day as we need them. As I was saying before, we need the brain to use each one of these brain frequencies as we want them. What we want is each of these brain waves to come up when we need them and to go back down when we need them. So the brain frequencies, these brain frequencies should not suck up high or low. For example, let's go for an example to clarify this better. If you are trying to thinking or to concentrating or to paying attention to something, you have to slow down and you need that time. You need your beta waves to be high and you need your delta waves to be low. So if in this situation that you're trying to think or trying to concentrate or to paying attention to something or to trying to solve a problem or anything, if the delta waves, which are the slow waves, stuck up high, so this won't be possible for you. This won't be possible for you to pay attention to something or to concentrate on that or to think about something. So another example is that if you're trying to go to sleep at night, and let's say that your beta and high beta waves, which are the fast and extra fast processing speeds, are stuck up too high, then you can't sleep. And your thoughts will be just going so fast and that you can't shut down your brain, so you can't go to sleep. This is what we need. What we need is our brain to have the ability to shift from one situation to another situation. We want our brain to shut down when we want to sleep. We want our slow waves to be low when we are trying to pay attention to something, to concentrate on something. So if this not happen, you won't be able to relax. You won't be able to pay attention. You won't be able to concentrate on something. So what we're gonna see is that the EEG to brain is like EEG to brain is like ECG to heart. When we are talking about it, let's look at from this point of view. EEG to brain is like ECG to heart. When we are looking at the heart activity, we know that this should have a resting state. For example, when you're running or when you're stressed, your heart rate will increase, obviously, but it should return back to the resting state. If it doesn't, you will bother. So this is exactly the same with the brain. When we are looking at the brain electrical activity will increase when you are thinking faster, or when you have an anxiety, or when you need something to be done. When, for example, when you will be having an exam, so you're stressful, you have some kinds of anxiety, or you should meet a deadline for something. You need something to be done. So this time, your brain electrical activity will increase. This is natural. This is something that should be. This means that the neurons are firing faster. Your brain electrical activity is increasing. But what we need to get back to the normal resting state. We don't want it to always be high. We don't want the brain activity to be always high. So so that we won't stop thinking. When let's say when like acute anxiety turns into chronic anxiety and the brain waves start firing all the time and they don't come back to the resting state, that becomes a problem. This is what we're talking about when the brain has actually can't shift from different states to shift between the different states. For example, if it can't increase its activity or it can't increase its activity according to what we expect it to do, that becomes a problem. And so this is what we're talking about. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about optimum and also dysregulated brain. We needed to be able to shift from different state to another. So this was the whole concept of QEEG brain mapping, and I will go back here when we talk about the different parameters for brain map. So there are different parameters for brain maps. First is the absolute power. I have here 4 of the parameters for brain mapping. The first one is the absolute power, which is a measurement of the raw energy, which is actually output at each site during the recording compared to the normative database. So when we are talking about absolute power, we are talking about the comparison of the absolute power of the different areas of the brain compared to the normative actually database. So after that comes the next parameter. It's the relative power parameter, which is a distribution of energy resources being utilized during recording among the frequencies measured compared to the normative database. So again, we are talking about the comparison to the normative database, to the large database that we were talking about. So these maps show how a person's brain is allocating resources. So this was another parameter that we use, and you will see in the brain maps. The next parameter you'll see in the QEEG reports is the amplitude asymmetry, which tells us the average difference between signals measured to actually compared to the normative database. This gives us information about the communication from one part of the brain to another. So for such maps, when we are talking about the amplitude asymmetry, when we get the map and the head has some kind of the brain actually has insufficient patterns of communication going on. So because this is important. This is important for a regulated brain to have sufficient patterns of communication going on. So if we say that the brain map has insufficient patterns of communication going on, that could be a problem. So it needs training. It needs training to create more efficient communication patterns. So this is another thing that we need to work on. And the next parameter in the brain maps that we can see is the coherence. The coherence is the variability of neuronal activation and delay between sites compared to the normative, again, compared to the normative database. So coherence is a kind of rate of shared information, rate of the shared information between different parts of the brain. So the red color, if we see coherence in red color, it shows more information than what we would expect. While when we see blue colors, it shows less than what we would expect. In the brain maps, we can see that these parts of the brain are actually, when we are talking about the coherence, we see that these different parts of the brain are sharing more information than what we would expect, and other parts of the brain may be sharing less information than what we would expect. So these are the problems that needs to be considered, needs to be trained to get to a more efficient way of functioning of the brain. So okay, let's go for the next parameter, and then I will get back to this part. The next parameter is the phase lag, which is the average of the delay between processing sites. So, and also again compared to the normative database. So this is the speed of shared information. And when a group of neurons are under a task, for example, you're under a task, you're thinking, you're paying attention, you're reading something, you're listening to something. So when a group of neurons are under a task, they are firing together. So phase lag is a kind of measurement for that. It's a kind of measurement for firing the neurons. It's a kind of measurement of that. So if in brain maps we see red colors in the brain maps according to the phase lag, it will show it's taking so long to do that, and so it's inefficient. It's an undesired condition. But when we see blue, it means that it's not taking long enough time for the firing of neurons together. So basically, the task is starting without enough neurons recruited. So these are the problems. And actually, this is an ocean. This is an ocean, an unlimited ocean. When we are talking about the disorders and the problems that will cause according to these parameters. But totally, we can say that the most important thing is to have a look at them, to study them, to interpret them. And after that, we learn how to do that. After that, we learn how to interpret the brain maps. The good news is that we can actually retrain the brain. We had like a month ago, I think, we had another webinar on neurofeedback. If you had not watched the neurofeedback webinar, I suggest you go to visit our YouTube channel, and you can watch the neurofeedback webinar too, because this is the whole process. This is the whole purpose. When we use QEEG brain maps, we are trying to find what situation the brain is and how it's functioning. Then after that, we find this out. What we want to do, we wanted to take the brain to the most optimum situation, to the most optimum condition. We want the brain to get it back to the normal functioning, optimum functioning. So what we will do, we will go over. We will go for neurofeedback doctors, neurofeedback practitioners, and maybe also our doctor will let us know that you need to go for neurofeedback. So neurofeedback is the treatment method, and it comes after this brain maps. Okay, so here I have added some pictures here. These are the parameters that we talked about for the absolute power, relative power, and power ratio, and these are the parameters that we will see. We will see these parameters in the brain maps. So this is also the symmetry, and we were talking about amplitude asymmetry, and you can see these heads, these connections between different areas of the brain, and this was, as we talked about, one of the parameters that is important to interpret for interpretation and everything. So, and also the next one is the coherence. I have added these pictures here to show you what you will see in a QEEG brain mapping. When you use these parameters, of what you will see. So let's just take a look at this brain map. If anyone has any questions, I would love to hear some questions if you may have. And then we can just summarize the whole concept of this, because this was just an introduction to the brain mapping and this technique. This was an actually opportunity to get familiar with this fantastic technique. And if you want to learn more about how to interpret these maps and how to actually you yourself do this, this requires depth training in this, and this comes with some private trainings or workshops or some things like that. But this was just an introduction. So until now, if you have any questions, I would love to hear your questions, and then I can just finish the presentation here. You can also turn on your microphone if you want, or you can write in the chat box. I'm going over the chat box now and see what questions we have here.
Yeah, so I have one question, please.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask you, can we use some other EEG headset instead of the one with the same software? Is that possible?
You can use different devices. I don't know if I got your questions. There are different devices that you can use for QEEG brain mapping, but the one that I was showing and I actually get the practical guide to use it was the ELECTROPHYSIOLOGY device designed by the ScienceBeam team. So if you may have questions about this device, I can answer.
I mean, I have a Muse 2 EEG device. So I was hoping to use that EEG device with some, like, is this software free to use, or we have to pay along with the device?
Yeah, the NeuroGuide software is not free software. It's a really strong and powerful software, but you can purchase it from their own website and everything, and you can use it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, ma'am. Actually, I have a small doubt in EEG.
Yes, sure.
Like how we can differentiate this frequency with the amplitude? Like in the waveform, we are seeing number of cycles per second. We take that as a frequency. So, like this amplitude, physiologically, how we can define this amplitude of this EEG signals actually?
Could you please clarify your question? I did not understand. Your question is how to differentiate the frequency and amplitude, or in brain waves, or brain mass?
Yeah. No, then basically, as a simple basic wise, how can we physiologically how the frequencies and the amplitude varies?
You mean the difference between the amplitude and frequency, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have the slide here, but I have described it in my previous presentation on the neurofeedback, that when you're talking about a wave, there are two main parameters: the frequency and the amplitude. The amplitude is how can I, because I don't have the, let me get that. Okay, for example, in this image, you can see these are the waves. When we are talking about the frequency, we are talking about the speed of the wave, how fast and how slow is the wave actually. For example, here in this, like, it's T7 electrode. You can see this is the fast waves. You can see it has a higher frequency. Like compared to like this one T2, this is the slow wave here. But when we are talking about the amplitude, we're talking about the length, like from here to here, the amplitude of the wave.
In a physiological manner. Yeah. Actually, with this image, I can see the amplitude and with the, like, I'm just asking for a physiological way. Like from the brain, we are extracting the signals into this display. So how the brain produces this amplitude and the frequency difference?
How the brain, actually all the brain waves, actually all the whole brain activity which we measure in brain waves and signals like this you can see here, they have both frequency and amplitude. So when we are talking about the brain electrical activity, both frequency, meaning the speed of the brainwave, and also the amplitude, both of them are important for us. So when we're going from raw EEG, the brain activity signals from the brain map, you can see that, for example, in a brain map, we are actually differentiating from delta, theta, alpha, and beta and high beta band. This is the speed. This is the speed of brain waves. And also what we're looking at in the brain waves are the amplitude. So when we are looking at the brain activity, both the speed of brain waves and also the amplitude of brain waves are important for us. And when we are looking at the brain map report, we can see both of the speed, frequency, and also the amplitude. I don't know if I'm clear.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Thank you for your question. Okay. I'm going over the chat box for more questions. So if anyone also has questions, you can turn on your microphones and or ask. So I have a question here. Positive here does not mean better. Mr. Ibrahim Rahmani, can you clarify your question? I don't know when you asked this question about the positive, but when we are talking about the brain waves or brain maps, we are not. No, I think you're talking about the brain maps. No, positive does not mean better. Positive just means higher than the mean. When we're actually, if you remember, we were talking about the population. We are talking about the population, and each population we say that it has a mean. So when we talking about positive or negative, we are talking about higher or lower than the mean of the population. So it's not better, it's not good, it's not bad. We want, actually, when we go for after the brain mapping, when we go for neurofeedback, we're trying to get closer to the mean. So because we talked about this, that the optimal condition of the brain is the mean of the population. So what we try in neurofeedback and other techniques, we want to get closer to the mean. So no blue colors and no red colors, no warm colors and no cool colors. Both are not good. We're trying to get to the green colors, to the mean of the population. This is the whole purpose. Another question I can see here is, does QEEG help find epileptic discharge? Yes. Epileptic discharge. Also, epilepsy is a kind of disorder that can be detected using the brain map too. Yes. What was the difference? I have another question here. What was the difference between absolute and relative power? Let's go back to this slide. You can see here that absolute power is the power, the energy of a specific location. But when we're talking about relative power, we are talking about the percentage of absolute power divided by the total power of the brain. So when we are talking about, like, let's again go back to the brain. Okay, here, for example, you can see that the first row is about absolute power, and the second row is about the relative power. When we are talking about the relative power, you can see that we are, for example, in here in this map, we can see that we are talking about the percentage of the delta band divided by the whole activity, whole power and energy of the band of the brain. So the relative power is the power of each data, each bandwidth, each frequency band divided by the whole power of the brain. This is the difference. I have another question here. Can you explain, please, the meaning of red and blue lines in neurokite maps of coherence and phase lag? Actually, as I mentioned before, for example, in when I talked about the coherence, I said that the coherence is like a rate of shared information between the different areas of the brain. So I said that the red color shows that there are more information than what we would expect, while a blue color show less information than what we would expect. Totally, when we are talking about the brain maps, there is here, there is this here that is like a guide. We see that the warm colors are above the mean and the cool colors are below the mean. So when we see blue colors, we see that we are actually seeing less than less information than what we would expect. When we see red colors here, it indicates that we are seeing higher than what we would expect, higher information what we would expect. This is the meaning of this, but I know this is something complicated. It needs in-depth training to make you able to interpret the whole brain map. When you go for like NeuroGuide software, when you record EEGs and you get the brain map and you get the report, it's not just like this page. I have shown here just one page of the report. It will give you multiple pages of the report. So it's very important to learn about all the details, but I'm just talking about the basics of the brain mapping. This is just one page of the report. So if you want to learn more, you need to take workshops and everything to help you to understand the concepts of these parameters. I know it seems a little bit complicated here, but I'm trying to make some clarification. Next question. I have some other questions here. Will the recording be made? Oh, okay. That is not. Yes. I think we will create a WhatsApp group and we will. You will join the WhatsApp group, I think, and we will share the video there. The red color will show the abnormal activity always. Then the red color will show higher activity than what we would be expect. So warm colors, red colors will show higher activity. So what we will try is to get back to the mean, get back to the green color. So both blue and both green, both red colors are showing not good activities. There might be some abnormalities. This is not that when you see this report, this is not that you just by seeing this report you get to say, oh, there is 100% there is an abnormality here. This needs to be, actually it needs to consider every aspect of the report. It's not just like that you look at this brain map and say that, okay, we have higher activity of delta, so this is 100% related to, for example, X disorder. So it's not like that. You need to be trained completely to be able to interpret this actually according to all aspects of the report that you're getting. Okay, so
hi, can you hear me?
yes, hi.
So when we take a brain map, we do it just for the current moment, right? It doesn't show something in general about us.
Yes, okay. Well, I did not understand your question.
So it depends on the mood of that person that we are recording the EEG. It doesn't give us about the personality or the way that its brain works.
Yeah, it can affect. Yes, it can affect that under which situation the person is. Yeah, it affects the what we're getting.
So how could we eliminate that?
Actually,
Because maybe that person was not in an ordinary mood.
Yeah, this is something that needs to be considered, but actually, mainly when you're recording from a person, actually, when you're a doctor or a neurofeedback technician or something, that when a person comes to you with actually before a person comes to you for a brain map, the doctor, the psychiatrist or the neurologist, you had the questionnaire and interviews and something with the patient. So you have a previous knowledge about the situation that the person coming to you has. So it helps. We do not recommend just to use the brain map to know what is going on, how the brain is functioning. This comes as an help, and it actually completes. These are complementary tools with questionnaires, with interviews, with just consultation sessions. Also, it will give complementary information, and this will give really perfect results. I've been working with lots of my customers and my network here. So I have seen really good results when they use the brain map, but according to your question, it comes with previous knowledge about the patient, for example, a questionnaire or interview or something. So you can't eliminate the effect of just what mood the patient had, but according to your previous knowledge about the condition, it will help to get to a better understanding of the brain maps and what's going on.
So there is no item for separating the information that the brain has and the current mood. For example, all the data that we see here are related to now, to the moment that we are taking the EEG, or some of them are related to the permanent characteristics of the brain.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. But as I was saying, when we combine the results of the brain map with the previous knowledge about the situation of the patient, I think you will get to a better result to get a better understanding of the situation that the patient has.
Yeah. So what I say is that looking at this brain map that we are seeing right now, are all the information that we see are related to current mood, or some of them are related to the fixed attribution of the mind, the brain? Can we separate them? Is there anything that we can find out?
Actually, there is no specific way of separating the current mode of the person and some permanent situation of the brain functioning. But as I know, what we're seeing is mostly related to the permanent condition of the person. When you're seeing a brain map, mainly I'm not saying that the current and at the moment situation of the person does not affect what we're seeing, but what we mainly see is the permanent condition of the brain. For example, if the person has anxiety, at the moment also he will have an anxiety too. So you will see the effects of the anxiety on the brain maps too. If they had, for example, ADHD, you will see the effects because those are the permanent effects. Those are something that when a person has some kind of disorder like ADHD, anxiety, depression, or something, you can see the effect at the moment of your recording too. So what you will see gets you to a good result. I don't know if I can explain it to you as you want me to, but this is what I'm saying.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you for your question. Spike and wave activity is usually not higher activity, so how it will be shown on the brain map? How can wave activity? I don't know if you're talking about spike and wave activity. When you're talking about spike and wave activity, are you talking about epileptic seizures or something? Is it what you're talking about? Spikes, like in epileptic seizures? Also, I'm going to answer this question of the coherence here. As I was saying, coherence, we say it's like a rate of shared information, a measure of synchronization between activity in two channels into different areas of the brain. So it's a measurement of communication and neural network connectivity and functional similarities and things like this, rate of shared information. Okay. If there are any other questions that you will have, if not, I will get back to the to a brain map, and I will go over it one more time, and then if there were any other questions, I will answer. So here you can see in brainwaves that actually in the brain map report, we see here the delta, theta, alpha, beta, and high beta bands. These are the different speeds of processing. These are the different frequencies of the brain. And as I told before, we need the normal brain to have all these frequencies included in its activity, but we need the brain to have the ability to shift from one state to another state, to lower one frequency, one speed processing speed, to lower it or to increase it. This is what we expect. So we use each of these frequencies and brainwaves in different amounts throughout the day as we need them. What we want is each of these brainwaves to come up when we need them and then come back down. So they should not stuck somewhere. They should not stuck like up or stuck down. This is actually the main concept of QEEG brain mapping that we are talking about. So in the brain maps that we use, you can see different, as I was saying, different bands here. So if we see that, like, let's talk about, for example, let's talk about the theta waves. If we see that the theta waves are stuck too high, it shows that the person has problems with focusing and attention, which is very typical in attention disorders. So I'm talking about the theta waves, and we talked about them in the beginning of the presentation. And as we were saying, we don't want any of these brain frequency to stuck up too high or to stuck too low. So when we're talking about theta waves, if they are stuck too high, it shows that the person has problems with the focusing and attention. And if you remember, the theta band was related to this focusing and attention too. So like in attention disorders, there is too much of theta right over the attention
Recording
network,
stopped.
which stops you from processing information. It's actually slowing down your ability to process information. So it makes it difficult with executive functioning and attention and working memory and planning. So this is important. This is
Recording in progress.
This is the thing that we have to consider when we are talking, for example, about the theta band. So it was the theta band. So let's go over another band. Like let's talk about the alpha band. For example, in alpha band, as we talked about, the alpha waves are increasing with meditating, or when the person is being very present in a moment, or the person is relaxing, or in meditation or something. So what we expect is that after this situation, after being very like present in the moment or relaxing or meditation, we want it to get back down, and we should progress into another condition. For example, we need to progress into problem solving. We need to progress into thinking about something, focusing on something. So if you are in this like meditative state all day long, you won't get much done. You won't be able to think about things. You won't be able to solve problems. You won't be able to concentrate on different things. So this is what happens when brain comes up into the alpha and stays stuck up there, which is not a desired situation. In this state, everything for the person who his alpha waves stuck up too high, everything seems overwhelming and can cause depression and like lower motivation. So the person can have much done throughout the day. So we tend to start like that person with alpha stacking up too high, start withdrawing from things because it seems so overwhelming and it's too hard to do something to do, or to meet with a group of friends, or to start a project, or to solve a problem, or to study, or things like that. So this is the problems coming with alpha stacking up too high. Another example would be the beta band. The next one is like beta waves. The beta waves should come up when we need them, and they should return back down as we relax our brain. Because as if you remember, beta waves are related to focusing and attention. So when what we expect them is to return back down as we relax our brain. When we want to relax, we don't want our beta waves to be high, because then we can't relax. So you need to be able to shut down your brain, for example, at night, to get to sleep and to relax. If not, it can cause anxiety, obsessive thinking, like compulsive tendencies. Also, it can cause physical difficulties like migraines and headaches. So this is another problem coming with the beta band and beta bands starting to high. So this is the whole concept when we are talking about this QEEG brain maps, and we need our brain to get back to the optimum version of itself to because it may cause a different and various problems. So let's have another example of this time, for example, like the high beta. If you remember, we talked about it, that the high beta is the extra fast processing speed in the brain. So this is very typical for these high beta waves to get stuck in things like post-traumatic stress. So when there is an intense stress over a period of time, or very specific traumatic event, for example, something bad has happened to a person, or that actually caused intense stress over like a period of time. So this can happen and can cause things like panic attacks, anger, aggression, or even addictive behavior. This is something that we may face when our high beta, the fastest speeds of the fastest processing speed, stuck up high. And these are the problems that can be caused by these processing speeds and in different areas of the brain. So when we want to interpret the brain map, it's really important to have the knowledge. It's a complicated kind of knowledge that needs to consider different areas, and it needs a complete training and everything. So this was the like introduction to the QEEG and brain mapping technique, and to give you the wider vision of this whole thing, we use this brain mapping technique to find out more about the functioning of the brain, and then what we will do is that we use the neurofeedback therapy. With the neurofeedback therapy, for example, if we see in the brain reports that, for example, if we see that we have problems in, if we see that we have problems like excessive activity of theta or delta or any band, we need to, for example, if we have increased like higher activity than the normal range, we need to decrease it. We need to lower it. So we use the neurofeedback technique in order to fix this problem. And or if we have lower than what would be expected activity for one specific or like multiple specific frequencies, then what we will do is to increase it, and this is what we do with the neurofeedback. So also I again mentioned that we had another introduction to the neurofeedback presentation like a month ago. It is available on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it there. And for further information about these techniques, and if you're running a clinic or if you're starting a research project or things like this in these areas of neurofeedback, QEEG and EEG, and if these are the areas of your interest and you're new to these areas, if you need a training and like a professional help to start to enter these areas, so you can just contact us. The ScienceBeam company has been specialized in these areas for like 20 years, and we offer complete trainings and devices and everything to help you step forward in these areas. So if you had any other questions, I would be more than happy to answer to any questions you may have. And also, I will leave email address of the company here for further information, as well as a WhatsApp number. So if anyone has any other questions, I would be more than happy to answer. I'm not getting questions here. So for anyone who'd be interested in using this NeuroGuide software, which I mentioned that this is a great database and this is a great software to pull up information. I will play a video here from the Applied Neuroscience company. And this is like an introduction about how to use the NeuroGuide software and what you can do with this software. So I'm going to share a video here for anyone who'd be interested in what they can do with this software. And yes, the recording link will be also shared with the participants.